Namaste and welcome to another edition of the Bharat Varta Weekly. It's been a historic week for India. Plenty of good news. Of course, the big news is Chandrayaan 3's historic moon landing. And then we had the case of Indian chess prodigy Pragnananda finishing second in the FIDE World Cup. A phenomenal achievement. And then we'll bring you a few updates from across the world. The strange death of Wagner Group's leader Yevgeny Prigozhin. We'll bring you updates from the BRICS summit and the expansion. And of course, Prime Minister Modi is in Greece, the first visit of its kind in 40 years. All of this and more on this weekly. Weekly is where we talk about the news and events of the week that was, along with Abhishek Paul and Nirav Kanodra, to bring you sane perspectives and dig deeper into what really the news means. Right? All right, let's get on with it. On 23rd, ISRO's Vikram lander successfully achieved a soft landing on the south pole of the moon. With this, India joins the US, Russia, and China to be among four countries to land on the moon and the first and only country to land on the south pole of the moon. In celebration, ISRO also released a video of the Pragyan rover coming out of the lander. Prime Minister Modi announced that Vikram lander's spot on the moon will be hence termed Shiv Shakti Point, and Chandrayaan 2's crash point has been named Tiranga. Well, Nirav, phenomenal achievement. We've all been waiting with bated breath on this eventuality, and kudos to all the ISRO scientists and everyone who made this possible.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. I think there's good thing about if you remember Chandrayaan 2 in 2019, there was a hard landing and like it crash landed on the surface of the moon. And at that time, there were a lot of people upset. There were tears on screen, and this is a good thing. The resilience is about like even if it is not done on the first attempt, we got there. And this is also interesting. Now the key thing is, do we find like water or ice caps on the south pole of the moon? Most other, like even when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon over 50 years ago, that was around the equator, right? So like basically the poles would receive less sunlight and hence would be colder. And if at all we have a chance of humans living there, we would need water. So I think that's one thing. And maybe there's a lot of, see, this whole mission, there's a lot of criticism from some people that why is India spending on space? So this whole thing cost about 615 crore rupees or 75 million US dollars, which is less than a Hollywood movie, Interstellar, or like any other Hollywood movies, right? Also, there is criticism. There are like a lot of people like Nigel Farage from the UK was saying that why should India be spending on this when they could spend on infrastructure? So the thing is on infrastructure, 75 million dollars is not enough. We need lakhs of crores for that. And India is a big country. Some people can send rockets to the moon. Some other people have to build infrastructure. And we've got like right from subsistence farmers or like landless laborers all the way to rocket scientists. We are a society, we have all types of people. And all types of people should do well and reach their own potential. So I think this is perfectly great. This gives a huge boost to science and technology. This gives a huge boost for anybody considering that should they set up some India operations or should they set up some R&D operations in India. It's like massive branding. And another favorite stat, like if ISRO spent 615 crore rupees on like spending on this, our stock market value increased by 31,000 crores on a day just after that, right? Maybe it's other reasons, whatever reasons. There's a lot of positivity in there. It doesn't cost that much. It is not coming at the cost of anyone else. You cannot say that just this money was taken away from building a road or a bridge, etc., etc. I have my own pet peeves. I was joking with my parents. In Mumbai, there is one bridge which fell down and which is being reconstructed after 50 years. So like 5 years they've been trying to rebuild it. So in that much we went from Chandrayaan 2 to Chandrayaan 3, but that's a fact. That is India. We've got all extremes. A large country, every extremes do occur, and sadly there are some places where we are really world class. Some places we are not so world class. But despite all of that, I think this is just a single event with like a massive positive externality. Everybody has taken up and seen this. This single event viewing on YouTube has been the single largest. I think previous have been some soccer games, but this is one single event with so much publicity. All the credit has to be given to ISRO, while the government and through governments, as in through India's governments, we've always been spending. We've had some setbacks in between, and we've been stuck for a while. But now again, this whole thing has been rejuvenated, and this also enables India to be a space superpower where we can launch satellites for other countries. So in the US, you have Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk trying to get private sector into the space, but India could be one competitor as well. Help some of the smaller nations launch satellites for their own communications, for their own like agriculture and weather forecasting, etc., etc. So this is very useful, and yeah, this is just a single event which showcases India's power in like science and technology. So just a great thing.
Yeah, so last week I was, watching what happened after Chandrayaan 2, right? I mean, the ISRO director met Prime Minister Modi, and who can forget those visuals, right, of a sobbing Mr. Sivan, being consoled by Prime Minister Modi. And then I was listening to Modi ji's speech as well, where he termed it so beautifully, right? I mean, he said we tried to hug the moon a little too tightly. And his words of encouragement and everything were at such a depressing time for the scientists, right? I mean, days and months of hard work going down the drain. And to come back from that, right, in about 4 years' time is phenomenal. I think it's a great, great achievement. Space, I think we've discussed this before, right, has a lot of impact downstream on technology applications that we use on an everyday basis, right? I mean, you could find things in your microwave or washing machine that has trickled down from something to do with space, right? I mean, it's not it's not for just some wild exploratory itch that US and Russia and the other more developed nations invest in space, right? I mean, obviously they invest in space also for material benefits. And I've never quite understood the whole guns and butter argument that people often make in these situations, that money could have rather been spent on infrastructure, food, or health, or whatever else. I don't think a nation's aspirations ought to be stalled just to wait for 100% progress and prosperity for everyone. I think it goes hand in hand, right? And stuff like this, as you rightly mentioned, has such a positive spin off, right? I mean, the stock market is one thing, but look at all of the enthusiasm among the younger generation, right? If they become scientists and engineers, I'm sure 10, 15, 20 years from now, a lot of folks will look back and call this one of those milestone moments. So it's all in all a phenomenal achievement. Abhishek, were you surprised with some of the remarks from our erstwhile colonial masters, with racist undertones and whatnot? People keep talking about this foreign aid for some reason. Well, the Foreign Office itself has clarified that they don't give any financial aid to India at this point, right? And yeah, I mean, what do you make of those?
All of that has become very predictable now. All these things follow a set pattern where any Indian achievement is going to be belittled by bringing up India's poverty, and then it's also their own domestic agenda, right? Like, so if you see exactly what they were saying while they were taking sort of backhanded shots at India, the basic target is their own government, right? That why are we sending aid these types of countries like India, which, like, if you actually hear Farage, he said that India is a superpower in his statement, like that if these guys have nuclear weapons and rockets and all this, so why are we sending aid? So it's like a rhetorical thing. Of course, there were many others who said many other things, including bringing up Indian poverty and all that. But basically, it's one of those, how do you say, easily disprovable facts, but something that their British right wing media likes to bring about. And I think there is also a bit of frustration in their ranks with an Indian at the head of the state in Britain, which it's very hard for them to digest, I think. So, if you see any comment section on YouTube or Twitter or anywhere, basically they call Rishi Sunak as an unelected PM, right? Because in an election, actually, he would never get elected as the prime minister, right? The white British people would not do that, actually. So there is that frustration also on their right wing. So yeah, it's combination of reasons, but it's actually like we should just sit back and enjoy them seething sometimes. It's for our amusement.
Really, I mean, I think, progress and prosperity is the only way to answer to any of these things. So, interestingly, Chandrayaan 1's spot was named Jawahar, after, of course, Pandit Nehru. All right, strange news coming in last week. On Thursday, the Russian aviation agency reported a plane crash en route from Moscow to St. Petersburg. Yevgeny Prigozhin, the leader of the Wagner Group, and 9 other people from his party have been reported to have died in the crash. Russia's President Vladimir Putin said in a statement that Prigozhin was a talented person who made serious mistakes in life. However, there is speculation as to whether this was orchestrated by Putin himself as a way to punish Prigozhin and if the mercenary leader is actually dead or not. I mean, this kind of reminded me of Dark Knight, the Batman movie. I mean, the first plane crash scene, right? I mean, with a bunch of Russians or strange speaking people. Yeah, I mean, fact and fantasy kind of merge, right, Abhishek? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we will never know what actually happened, right? Because the Russians have basically said that they will conduct an investigation, and I think Putin in his statement said that these investigations take time, etc. Right? So there'll always be a lot of theories about what happened, right? Whether there were already pre-planted bombs on the plane or something else, or whether it's a genuine crash, etc. So if it's a genuine crash, it's a hell of a coincidence, right? Given that this person was allegedly on the verge of committing a coup or attempting one or a mutiny in June, right? And after which he marched on to the nation's capital for a day, and then initially, Putin vowed to destroy this guy, right? And then somehow mysteriously a deal was sort of negotiated by which he was supposed to move over to Belarus, right, with some of his key people. But it seems that in the subsequent periods, he was still sort of moving along freely within Russia. So maybe, who knows, like he may not have been following the terms of the agreement, or I don't know. But yeah, fascinating stuff in the whole Russia Ukraine situation, as always.
Maybe someone will make a Hollywood blockbuster on this, right?